The business plan is the only one you'll find out there when it comes to recycling. We've proven that we can get high recoveries and high purities. This is a complete solution for a battery manufacturer. There's not many other companies out there that call themselves recyclers.
You keep telling me there's no one else that does this. We have spoken to people like Neometals or Gem or LiCycle, and they all do claim to do what you do. Where do you think you stand versus them? Why is yours better than theirs? Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. First of all, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like it, give us a thumbs up and please leave your comments below. It just helps us to try and understand what you're thinking about, what concerns you, what questions you'd like us to ask, and sort of general mood about different commodities in the marketplace. So please make an effort to do that. And if you haven't already done so, another plead from me, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can always click the notification bell. We spoke earlier today to Larry Reaugh, who is the CEO of American Manganese. It's a company which has segued from low-grade manganese recovery, because it wasn't economic, into battery recycling. So it's recovering cathode materials from batteries. Very topical, very hot at the moment, very green. We talked to Larry and try and get to the bottom of where he is at the moment in terms of the technology itself, getting contracts and JVs into place, getting financing for well, he tells me he's got a pilot plant tested. It's quite a small pilot plant, so, but he feels he can leap to the commercial plant with 15 to 20 million bucks. They're going to need some money short term because they've got about $500,000 left in the bank, and I think COVID-19 is kind of stretching things out for him and everyone else. We talk about a lot of different topics. Take a look in the description below, see if there's anything there that you're interested in. If there is, click on the relevant timestamp and that can take you to that part of the video. And do let us know what you thought of what Larry had to say. Larry, how are you, sir?
Great, fantastic.
Good, good. So where are you joining us from?
Joining you from Surrey, British Columbia, from our office.
Oh, very good, very good. So you're hard at work. No quarantine issues for you?
Not so far. It has been. It's affected at least one of our workers is working from home.
Oh, right, okay. Well, Larry, why don't you kick off and give us a 1-minute helicopter view of the company, and then we'll kind of pick it up from there.
Okay, American Manganese is a critical metal company that developed a process for treating very low grades of manganese, which is what the U.S. has. We've taken that as a cornerstone to launch into actually to recycle lithium-ion batteries, the cathode materials, which are very valuable. And we've been very successful at that. We've got 2 patents now on that, and a third one we'll be applying for. So, and basically, we've come to the attention of a lot of people in the industry, and we hope to move on from there.
Fantastic. Well, I guess you're in a very topical space at the moment. I think obviously the COVID-19 pandemic aside, assuming we return to normality and people continue to look at the battery revolution as something that's meaningful and coming long and hard at us, for sure. Can you just, I get what you do, the background of what you do, but what I'd like to understand first is a little bit about, when did you start this off? What did you set out to do? Obviously, manganese, low-grade manganese recovery is one thing, but you've got a few patents coming here. So, what did you start off wanting to do? How has that progressed? And is that original plan still in place?
Well, we moved away from trying to promote or to, I guess you would say, commercialize the manganese aspect, because the manganese price has not played ball. And but in 2016, we started looking at the cathode material that's in a lithium-ion battery, and we did a proof of concept. We got excellent results, and we've spent several millions of dollars now developing that process. It's probably the only process that will return you up to 100% recoveries and purities on the metals that we process, and the hydrometallurgy is patented, so nobody else can utilize our techniques or our patents for sure. But what we do is we take the cathode material, a battery, or the scraps, and that's what we're focused on is the scraps, and we convert that into what we call cathode to cathode. Now you remember that the scrap material in itself is almost pure cathode material that goes in with some anode material, and hydrometallurgically we separate that out into what we call cathode to cathode, which means that we can take that material out of a battery and return it to a battery manufacturer if they so desire, in a same composition that would go back into a new battery, but probably with greater purity.
Do you think, can we come on to that in a second? You're kind of getting into selling me or promoting to me the new setup here with your patented technology. I really wanted to understand a bit more about you as a manager, you as a businessman, and sort of work out, what it is that you're trying to build here, what type of company you're trying to build. Because me as an investor, I want to know what I'm investing into. So not just about the technology, but where's the business going. So you're telling me you segued away from the manganese recovery because manganese prices were low and the economics weren't there for you. And was it overnight in terms of this segue into battery recycling, or did you have some existing technologies which you were able to carry over, or was it a period of discovery that you had to go through there?
No, it was a technology that we carried over from, as I said, the manganese process, and we found that the metal should drop out on the curve. At least we didn't, but the contractor did, and that's Cametco. And we found that there was a good opportunity for us to get into the recycling of lithium-ion batteries. Our whole business is circled around that now. I mean, we've proven that we can get through pilot plant testing, we can get high recoveries and high purities. And there's not many other companies out there that call themselves recyclers. They're basically shredding it and sending it to a smelter, which is not the best way to handle a recycling of a battery.
Right. Again, I think we're kind of moving on to the parametallurgical versus hydrometallurgical solutions. Are you saying to me, I'm trying to interpret what you're saying, so you're trying to say to me that you are building a company around a patented technology, a hydrometallurgical recovery technology, to feed off of the battery marketplace, because you're talking about recovery, and I guess you're talking about regular lithium-ion batteries here, not lead, not anything else.
No lead. Usually with the chemistries of, let's say, NMC, which is nickel manganese cobalt, or nickel manganese. That type of structure, whether it's 822 or whether it's 811 or 622, I should say, and we get greater than about 99% of the recoveries on that. This is a very lucrative market. There's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of batteries coming loose today. There's also hundreds of millions of scrap out there. Scrap is the pre-use, which is developed from building the battery itself by the manufacturer. There's trimmings and everything else. There's failed testing that turns all of the stuff that they've done back into scrap. And it appears that 10 to 20% of the battery use of cathodes ends up as scrap. So it's in a market that if we were in the business right now, if we had a commercial plant, that we could be going full.
Okay, so let's talk about where you are, because I think let's talk about where you are. So you've got a technology. It's patented. It's been tested in lab conditions. You're now looking to be able to create a pilot type facility where you can test it on a larger scale. So I guess we're going to need to talk about the money side of things. I mean, today you're at 23 million market cap, 12 cents. How much cash have you got in the bank?
We got a little over $500,000 in the bank, and so which is going to carry us through for the next few months, get through with the coronavirus. But we've already completed our pilot testing. That has been done. It's not just lab testing, it's lab scale testing. We have actually piloted the plant. We've bought material, and we've also received material from two tier 1 companies and tested their material. This is battery manufacturers. And, so we know we're on the right path here, and we're starting to talk to a few about perhaps off taking their scrap to start, batteries second.
That's interesting. So what scale was the pilot test done at? What sort of volume?
It was built for 2 kilograms an hour, but did a lot more than that. And we're going to test it again to see full capacity on that pilot plant. And but we put a couple 100 pounds of material through the pilot plant, and we've developed actually the powder. If you go to our site, you'll see pictures of the powder. You won't find that on anybody else that calls themselves recyclers, or they are recyclers, but they don't end up with the powder. And that powder is a cathode material that goes back into the battery. And we also have a venture with the DOE in the United States. We're part of a recycling program there. We supply the hydrometallurgical side. What we're working on with them is getting the shredding or the material off of the cathodes. Basically taking a battery and reducing it down to the foils. The foils are aluminum foils, which contain the cathode, and copper foils, which contain the anode, so that we can put them through our metallurgical plant. And that's what our pilot plant is. It's we think it can do between 10 and 20 kilograms an hour if we were to operate it on a steady base. But it is a pilot plant, and it works in real world conditions. Tells us that we can build a commercial plant and get good results.
So you'd be happy going off a plant of that scale and getting into building a commercial plant, but would funders be happy based on the information that you've got available? It doesn't seem significantly large to me, but it doesn't matter what I think. What are the funders telling you or asking you for?
Well, they want to know where our supply is coming from. That's the first question.
Okay.
And
what's the answer?
Where we're going to sell it. I don't think it's a problem.
What's the answer to both of those?
Well, the answer is we're working on that, but I'm not about to disclose who we're talking to. There's competition out there. And also I have NDAs with some of those companies, but you may start to see some press releases in the future where we have actually started to tie down some supply. We know where we can get the supply for a 3-ton-a-day plant right now, and but that comes at a cost, and so it's not like we're concerned about the supply. What we're concerned about, what everybody should be concerned about, is how the treatment affects the environment. There's nothing goes back into the environment. We have a closed circuit. The water is reused. There's nothing that goes into the air. This is a complete solution for a battery manufacturer to be able to say to his the people that he supplies the batteries to, that we have a full closed circuit program going with actually down to recycling the batteries and getting back all the material.
Fantastic. Closed loop circuit to be applauded. But I mean, the other thing people are looking for is the economics, and see, can this be done, and can it be done economically? Can it make money, not just for you but for shareholders? I mean, what's your view on that?
The economics are great. You just go straight line to our business plan that's on the site. You'll see that the economics are fantastic. I keep reading about that it's not economic to do so. But I'll give you just an example. We're a mining company. I've been through pilot plants and actually construction of mills and operation of plants. It's no different. Batteries are the feed, ore is the feed in the mining aspect, but batteries are the feed for us. And if you go look at the business plan, you'll see the economics are great. It's the way the deal. Our biggest risk is how do we structure the deal so that the company remains on top. We want the battery manufacturer to understand that we're providing a closed circuit solution to their batteries. They're not going into a dump. They're not ending up in the environment, and they're getting material back. So how we structure the deal is how the economics are. But right now, the biggest cost in metallurgical recycling is the reagents. And for example, if we take down a battery that has a certain combination like NMC 811, that's worth $1,300 to $1,500 a ton. And consequently, it costs us about $1 a kilogram for reagents. And the rest is just labor and power. And that's, it's highly lucrative. If somebody wants to go to the business plan, they'll see that.
Okay, and so what happens in terms of, you got to, well, if you're not bidding, you're probably going to have a contract in place from, battery manufacturers, whether it be automotive or otherwise, to feed initially, I guess, their 10 to 20% rejected batteries, and then presumably end-of-life batteries at some point further down the line. I mean, there's a cost to that. Is that factored in, or is that not part of the consideration?
No, that'll be factored in. It's a negotiation. What do we pay for the scraps, and how we handle it, and what we do is at the end of the day. Scraps are, you don't have to worry about crossing provincial lines or state lines or borders. It's benign. It's just a cathode metals painted on a strip of aluminum, and that comes. There's no toxicity to it. There's nothing. There's no problems with it. So it should be shipping should be easy. The whole thing hinges on what does the battery manufacturer want? Do they really want to do something about the environment? Well, it's going to cost us. They're not going to get as much from us as they might, and I can't see how, get from somebody who burns the batteries. But it gives them the ability to reassure their customers that they're doing something with the battery, and that, to me, should have a good price tag to it. And but if you look at our business plans, that's not factored in. We only use the basic ore calculations on what they're worth. We don't use the enhanced battery treated cathode material, which can add 50% to the cost. We don't add that to our factor that in. We just use the straight across price of the metals, and yet it's very robust.
So who's done that business plan? Who's kind of, like in mining? I think you've done yourself a bit short there. You're kind of mining without the risk in many ways, but it does. The success is predicated on the terms of the contracts and agreements that you put in place and the supply chain, therein. But if I may ask, who's put the business plan together and signed it off? Is that just an internal document and we've got to rely on your figures, or is there some?
The pro forma.
The pro forma. What
pro forma document, and it's put together by our CTO. Chief Technical Officer, Zarko, and utilizing prices that are out there. Anybody can do that. An accountant can do that. You don't have to have an engineering firm do that. It's you can calculate how much is in the battery and what your recoveries come from Cametco, and you move ahead from there. They give us a cost of the reagents. And so it's a pro forma calculation. Now, when we move into actually designing the plant, that's going to cost a bit of money. It's not like it's because it's a 3 ton a day or a 10 ton or 30 or 50 ton a day plant. The fact of the matter is, it has to be engineered and scaled, the same as a plant for treating ore. And so that's not cheap. And so that's our next step, is to get that done. Although we seem to be, during this coronavirus, we've gotten a lot of interest. We're not sitting on our hands here waiting for everybody to go back to work with the computers and everything else, emails and everything else. And telephones, of course, we've been actually busy every day. It's busier than it was before the coronavirus.
No, I get it, and I think a lot of CEOs, would say that they're always having conversations. I guess what I'm trying to get at as an investor is, how do I understand the gaps in this process? So you've put together a business plan without necessarily having the contracts in place or the agreements in place to be able to definitively put a price on things. You haven't costed out the price of the the commercial plant. So these are all kind of pulled in from lots of different places. But I as an investor, have got to trust your ability to put a correct number on that to be able to work out the economics of the business. And I like this space. I like this space a lot. So I'm thinking, you've got a proprietary technology. It's a case of, can you commercialize it? Can you put the...
It's not a proprietary technology.
Oh,
it's
sorry.
Patented technology.
Right. Okay. Okay. So you've got a patented technology. I'll have to look up what the difference is. Apologies.
Well, the difference is our technology is protected, proprietary. You don't know anything about it.
Okay, good. I've learned something today. Okay, so what I'm trying to get at is, are you going to be able to put all of these agreements, JVs, this chain in place to be able to economically apply your patented technology and produce a profit and be able to communicate that to the market so that the shareholders understand it, so people get engaged with your story, and I guess the bits that I'm not hearing at the moment is where the feedstock's going to come from. You're telling me you're in conversations, and some assurity around the economics of how you go about putting all of that together.
Well, I'm really not understanding the question, but let me try to make it clear. The business plan is the only one you'll find out there when it comes to recycling, okay? You won't find it in anybody else's. But first off, we know what the chemistry of a battery is. We can calculate the tonnage, drilling, and then estimating a reserve, right? If you're talking about mining. So, we can tell how much a battery's worth, and I just told you that. It's worth about like an ounce a ton of ore, right? And 1 ounce of gold per ton of ore. So how do we, we got to knock down the barriers all the time, but certainly the patented process protects us. We're patented we have 3 patents in the company. We'll have a 4th one coming, and we're applied for patents in 7 other jurisdictions around the world. We'll have that. That was the key to everything. If you don't have patents, what have you got? You got something that somebody else can exploit, number one. Whether you call it proprietary technology or whatever you call it, that can be exploited by anybody. And, we think that we have the best patent going. Doesn't take much. You don't have to sit down and hire engineers all over the world to figure out what's the value of a battery. Mm-hmm. And if you've got the recoveries, that tells you that what you can expect from a return. And so what I'm not understanding, what you're asking is, what else can we do to assure everybody?
Well, it's just you said a few things to me there. So like patents in themselves, I get the protection component, and I get you saying proprietary technology can be copied. It'll be copied if it works, if it can, work economically, people will copy it. Patented, not so much. So I'm not. That's what I'm trying to say is, a patent in itself isn't necessarily worth too much unless it can work economically. And I'm trying to get at the economics of this. And you keep telling me there's no one else that does this. And we have spoken to people like Neometals or Gem or RecycLiCo, and they all do claim to do what you do. So it's not completely devoid of competition. So there is competition out there. It's a question of, where do you think you stand versus them? And if you are all saying the same thing, it's all the same white noise, but you think you've got the best technology, it's just helping me understand why is yours better than theirs.
Well, you have to look at the technology. Unfortunately, you can't compare us to RecycLiCo or those companies that don't even talk about recoveries. And so I can't begin to tell you what they're doing. I know they're shredding. That's all I can tell you. And even Unicor, the biggest out there, is basically burning the batteries at the end of the day. And that's not a solution.
Well, take neon metals, for instance. Theirs is a hydrometallurgical process, for instance. So, how do you stack up against someone like them?
How do I compare that? They came out with a release that they completed their pilot plant testing. They didn't talk about recoveries. They didn't talk about purities. They didn't talk, just that it met expectations. And how do I compare that with our process? I can put mine in front of you, show you the end product, and give you the recoveries, give you the purities. What more can a man ask for? I mean, that's what's there. That's why we've got deals with tier 1 companies that are battery manufacturers. We're testing their material. There's only 4 of them, so you can figure out that half of them are testing material with us, right? When we have a deal with the DOE, where we're working closely with the labs there and testing the material that they turn out. And you go to our site and look at the mounds of green powder that we produce from Cametco. All of our work is done by arm's length people. Cametco doesn't own a share. Cametco doesn't own anything in the patents. They've got no reason to give us beefed up results. And they've got 600 clients and they're all over the world, so they're not exactly an unknown company. So we're arm's length to that. And so basically what we show is transparency, and you're comparing me to companies that don't show any transparency. And so I can't even comment on what they're doing. If you can find something, show me. Well, I can find out certain things from behind the curtain. But if you can show me something where they actually give results, then I can compare it. But I can't compare it to other companies that are out there naturally. It's not just them. There's probably 100 other companies out there working on that. Some of them have been working on trying to recycle the batteries in an environmentally friendly way for the past 10 years. And they got a lot bigger treasuries than I do, and they haven't gotten there. So all I can tell you is that you can go to our site, you can see the business plan. It doesn't have to be an engineering plan. It's strictly a mathematical plan on what it's worth. If we got the recoveries, we can calculate what the costs are. Show me somebody else that does that. And, and we've also talked to, as I've told you, I can get all the scraps I need for a 3, perhaps even up to a 10-ton-a-day plant. And I could just enter into that agreement tomorrow. But it's not favorable. It's not favorable. It's a middleman contract that cuts me off from all the battery manufacturers. So we've got to. It's not like we just go bang, 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 bang. This is a very competitive business, and but what we can offer is a total solution. And I'm not seeing anybody else out there, if they could get the recoveries we did, the purities that we did, they don't even show you the color of their powder. Why wouldn't they do that? It's because maybe they're getting burnt. and that's the end of the whole.
Okay, so tell me, with regards to the plant, whether it be 3 ton, 10 ton, I mean, how much money are you going to need to raise?
Well, we're looking at $15 to $20 million,
Right.
and so but that'll a plant like that, depending on how you structure, could pay back in 1.5 to 3 years. And there's nothing but money involved. And we knew that from 2016, when the prices were really in the ash can, not as low as they are right now. I mean, I've been in mining all my life, and I've been involved in building mines, and actually had a company that jointly operated a mine. So I know what's involved moving forward. This is a mining deal. This is not and by the way, patents are worth money. A lot of companies are, their value is measured on the patents that they have. Not that you can't have patent infringement, but I would love to see somebody build a whole plant and a business on utilizing my patents. There's weapons, there's certain things that I could do. First off, I would sue them for the plant, for the profits they made and everything else, and the world would stand behind me on that. So I'd have a plant. So why would anybody jeopardize the whole company on stealing my patented work? Now, this may happen in remote areas of China or something like that, but sooner or later you're going to get found out. And so patents are extremely important.
So just coming back to the plant question, which was, you told me the number, would that be an equity or debt or some kind of mixture thereof? I guess that's going to depend on what contract you have in place.
Combination. Would be, it could even be a third grants, a third equity, and a third convertible debenture or something like that. And I've raised about $400 million in my life, and raised bigger chunks than this for mining projects. But this is a unknown area. Somebody's got to promote the battery recycling, which we try to do, and bring it to the forefront. And but right now, I can tell you that from the calls that I'm getting, that this is starting to be recognized as the area that a lot of these, especially battery companies, want to get into. But it's not just battery companies. If you're an oil company and you're looking at spreading the risk, why wouldn't you get involved in recycling of batteries? They're the thing that's going to knock you out of the sales of oil. And or you could be any kind of entrepreneur that is interested in the opportunity. If they want to, they can sit down with us. They can go to Cametco. They can see that we're not charlatans or bullshitters, and see that our process works. So, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to make a lot of money, I can't think of a better field to get into right now than this. And you got to push forward the fact that if you're a battery manufacturer or an EV car sales, what happens to the battery? That you're starting to see that question coming out all the time now, and they got to have an answer. And burning them is not the way to end up with a battery, or poor recoveries with a lot of the material going back into the environment.
And I get it. May I ask, is that plant going to be funded this year? Is that something you're looking to try and deliver this year for your shareholders, given your confidence over the...
Yes, we are. Unfortunately, timetables are set back, especially even with Cametco doing the work for us. They've got 30 people in their plant, and they've got skeleton crew in there. They can't have 30 people in the plant right now. And so everything's got to move back, but we're moving ahead as best as we can. So all we need is a big investor. And that's what we're focusing on, is finding a big investor, and by that is somebody who shares in the dream, somebody who shares in the profits, the potential profits. And other than that, I don't think that there's going to be a problem financing this situation. To be very honest with you, I can't think of I have never had a better opportunity in my life for a smidgen of the money that it takes to build a concentrating plant working with ore.
Okay, and so I'm just clear. So you're not necessarily wanting to get institutional money in. You're saying you'd like entrepreneurial, family office type money in. That's where you see this coming
That's
from.
just one way.
One way. Okay. It's not a preference or anything.
That's just one way.
Right.
I mean, there's several ways to go on this. A joint venture would be the cleanest. And that could be with a partner. I've got people that talk to me about putting money up on a joint venture. And, and I got people that talk up to me about debt, and I got people that talk to me about equities.
So what's stopping you? What's stopping you? Why don't you take that money?
The price of the stock would be, first off, I don't want to do something down here at 12 cents. We've raised about $8 million to bring the project to this level. And I know that it will soon break out of this level, and we can do it at higher prices. Or we could do a convertible debenture or anything else. What's stopping me is I've got to get some actual plans done for the concentrator or for the plant, and sizing and everything else and pricing. Most of this stuff is not going to come off the shelf. It's going to come off. It's going to have to be fabricated. It's a different technology.
How much does that cost? How much would that cost you to put together the plans for the concentrator?
Could be about $1 million.
Okay, so you're going to need to raise some money short term, right?
We're going to raise money in the short term. Yeah.
When are you planning?
And, well, as soon as the market stops dropping, and I'm not going to, my shareholders have put up money higher than this price. I'm not going to, if I can help it, I'm not going to put them down to because of some thing that's happened in the market beyond my control. I'm not going to put them down to half the price that they put up for it, and I'm not going to roll back the stock. I'm not going to do those things. And we've advanced this project whether people want to believe it or not. If they're doing it the right way, they would have spent millions of dollars on getting to the point that we're at, as we did. It's no different than a mining project. You're obviously familiar with mining projects because that's what you advertise. And so you know that there's a cost to doing business there. There's risks there. There's all those sorts of things. And, but show me where the huge risk is. And batteries are unloaded out of a car that has reached the end of life. Somebody may want to take it apart and reuse some of those cells, whatever. But somebody's got to deal with them at the end of the day. And, we're finding that, not jumping to conclusions 2 years ago and trying to tie down the supply and all that stuff, because we know we're not there yet. Would have cost us money, would have cost us for potential mistakes. And we've had off-takers trying to, get us to go into off-take agreements, and I'm talking about big commodity firms. We haven't. It's a real temptation to do that, but we think that we could end up with dozens of plants around the world 5-10 years out. Some of those plants may be directly to a battery manufacturer who wants to reuse his cathode material, which we give him the ability to do that. This is not just a find the ore, do a study, get the metallurgy down, and get the permits. And don't forget, there's permits to get in this. Well, how fast do you think we could get a permit if we could show that nothing goes back into the environment? And there's political aspects of it. I'm sorry, but I can't talk to you about all the stuff that we're going through with very important companies and even politicians. And so until we reach that stage, and it could be probably long before we have the plans all done. We've got prices on some of the plans. The prices even surprised me. You know, having paid for feasibility studies at least 5 times in my career, and raised up to a couple $100 million on in the one case, and it's I'm not seeing this is a problem. This is the first thing I get with everything that I do. How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? It's all you got to do is look down the road and say, this is what I'm going to do, and you do it.
Okay.
It's as simple as
So tell me this, Larry. Have you know, obviously the share price went up last year, reasonably good year, dropped off beginning of this year for obvious reasons. Did you take the chance to mop up some cheap stock yourself? Have you been buying in the market?
Well, unfortunately, you know, I've got $1 million in this stock, and that's my whole net worth. And where am I going to get the money to mop up some cheap stock? That's another thing that you know, I got $1 million into it. The management and the directors have cumulatively several millions of dollars into it, but the cheap seats are cheap seats are saying, why don't you buy more stock? Well, I would if I could, especially down at these levels, but I can't. And you know, I got to feed a family. I got to do everything else that everybody else does. I get a fucking salary, and that's it.
Okay, Larry, brilliant. I like the space you're in. I really do, and I wish you well. And I appreciate you talking us through where you're at. Sounds like, you know, there's lots of things in the pipework. In the pipeline, sorry, which should be coming through soon. But I'd really appreciate it if you pick up the phone and tell us about it when those things hit, because if you put it together right, you know, it's going to be a really good thing.
We'll put it together right. You know, it's not like we haven't got experience in that area. You know, I say, look at somebody who's done it before and see if they can do it again. And like I'm telling you, it's not like one of my projects, $650 million, in which we raised $200 million, $80 million in a bridge loan. And, you know, this is $15 to $20 million. And if we decide to go bigger, maybe $40 million, and which is nowhere near the capital that's required in an actual mining operation. I don't see a problem.